Every once in a while, you run across a couple of meals that are just so good, so good. The flavor profile is awesome. In this video, I'm sharing a few of those that we have had recently that wow, just wow. Before we even get started, let me know in the comments what has been a meal that really surprised you recently. It could be something you made at home or something that you had out to eat, but the flavor profiles were just awesome. We're making somewhat of a casserole. This is smothered burritos. You already know that sounds good. I have 1 pound of chicken thighs that I've cooked up. I've already shredded these so that they're ready to go. We just need to add all of our ingredients. But y'all, all I did was boil this so that we could shred it. You could cook it in your crock pot all day long with some spices, shred it up in there, whatever way you want to make this. Rotisserie chicken would be perfect for this recipe. I'm gonna add some salsa into this. We're gonna add probably, for this amount, maybe 3/4 of a cup. I'm not gonna measure exactly. We're just gonna add and make sure that there's enough so that the chicken won't be dry. I have some left in here though, so if I get to the end and I mix it all together and I think this is just too dry of a mixture, we can toss some more in. I'm also gonna be adding some onion powder. Again, I'm also gonna be adding some oregano. This is a great flavor in this one. Just about a 1/2 teaspoon or so, maybe even less, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. And then for the cumin, which cumin is so delicious in these type of flavors. If you have salsa, period, you need to be adding cumin to it, trust me. We're gonna add probably about a teaspoon of this one. And this one does not shake very well. I don't know what the deal is, but I always end up having to take the lid off. I'm gonna add some green onion into this, and I'm adding some of the green part, and I'm also gonna add some of the white part. I have another green onion out. I'm gonna set it to the side with those herb scissors because I do think it'll be really pretty to add some to the top. And we're also gonna be adding some cheddar cheese. Feel free to shred yours on your own. I said it in another video recently that cheese was, I think it was buy one, get one free, or one of those things. Sometimes they do buy 2, get 3 free. I just went ahead and bought some cheese so we would have it in there. We need about 3/4 of a cup or so. Again, I'm not measuring. I just wanna make sure that we've got some cheese on the inside of each one. Mix all of this together. Now I did a very rough shred on my chicken, but you could make this as shredded as you want. Totally up to you. This is our burrito filling. Let's set that to the side. And we've got the cutting board. That's just so we can prep burritos. I've got my 9x13 baking dish. We're gonna spray this really well. The tortillas that I'm using, these are the best ones, by the way. These are so good. The organic flour by Mission, really good. I'm assuming I'll get in between 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5. Let's start with that and see what happens. Start to just add some to the center of each one of these burritos. The larger ones are honestly probably better for this, but these kind, they only come in this one size and they're kind of a medium size. So I don't even know if I'm gonna be needing a 9x13, but these go in the pan seam side down. So let's just see, we'll get however many we can possibly get with these and then we'll see what it looks like. Y'all, I really think for our family, we could fit this in an 8x8. I'm gonna try it, because that's gonna be a really big pan to store afterward. All right. So if you're using the larger tortillas, you probably won't be able to fit it into an 8x8, but I think we're fine. I mean, look how well these fit, just nestled in there. My oven is currently preheating to 400 degrees. These are gonna go into the oven just like this for about 20 to 25 minutes. And while that happens, we're gonna make the sauce that goes on the top of these. Then they'll go back in the oven for just a few more minutes. We're at 375, almost ready. All right, my burritos are in the oven. I've got some butter in my pan. You need about 2 tablespoons or so. This might actually be, it's right at 2 tablespoons. Let's get that melting. Now keep in mind that this is a half recipe that I'm making. So we're gonna add in 1.5 tablespoons of flour, just all-purpose flour, and start to make a roux, cooking off this flour And then we'll add in our liquids. Okay, I'm gonna turn it down just a little. We might be a little high on the heat. You need to be on like a medium-ish. Okay, I'm gonna add in 1 clove of minced garlic, about a clove anyway. Okay, I've got some bone broth here. This is chicken bone broth. We're gonna slowly mix this in and incorporate. So I'm just adding about half first. We'll whisk that together and then I'll add the other half. Now, while that's starting to thicken back up, we're going to add in some cumin. So about a half teaspoon. We're using the same flavors in the sauce that we used in the burritos, just keeping that similar. I'm also adding some oregano, about a half teaspoon on that as well. Okay, continue to whisk, mix together. And I've got my heat, I turned it up just a smidge onto a medium high so that it can start to simmer again, and that's gonna help this sauce to thicken up. I'm also gonna add a dash of salt. For us, we use bone broth instead of chicken broth, so it's a little less on the sodium. So just about a half teaspoon of salt. For just another 2 minutes or so, you can see it's starting to take a little longer to pull together. I can feel it. I mean, obviously you guys can, but you can see those bubbles, so we've got some heat there. It's definitely simmering. All right, once you achieve the desired thickness of this sauce, go off of the heat. So we're gonna move this off the heat to add in our other ingredients. Now, personally, we like a lot of green chilies, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in this whole can. Actually, let me just strain it a bit. It doesn't need to be drained too much, but just a bit. I'm also adding in a 1/4 cup. This is Greek yogurt, but you can use sour cream. Creating more of that sauce. It's looking so good. Now we're gonna add some cheese. I'm only gonna add about a 1/4 cup because we are gonna be adding more to the top of the burritos when we take them out and finish them up. So we'll just add that in, let that all work and melt together. And then once our burritos come out of the oven, we've got about 8 more minutes at this point. We'll add the sauce to the burritos. The burritos have been in there for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna take this sauce and just attempt to kind of pour all over. I mean, you can spoon it over if you wanna be more careful than I'm being. We're also gonna top with a little more cheese. You do not have to do this, but I do think it'll look nice to have that kind of cheesy layer on the top there. Our garden is currently giving us the cutest little baby tomatoes, so I just cut some of those up so we can add them. Look how adorable. You don't have to do this either, but I do feel like it adds some pretty, oh, I dropped one. It's gonna add some pretty color. It also might be a little risky to add this before it goes back into the oven, but I'm gonna risk it. We're gonna do it, okay? Because I'm ready to clean up my kitchen so that we can eat as soon as this comes out. This is gonna go back into the oven on the broil function, just about 3 minutes or so until that cheese is nice and melty. So let's broil back in. I fully anticipate that this is gonna be crazy hot, but let's try it. I mean, y'all, it looks really, really good. Excellent flavor. Whoa. My family is going to love this, y'all. It is so bursting, so much flavor. That is absolutely delicious. Wow. Okay. There's really not a lot of heat. I thought there might be because of the green chilies, but there's not. But that sauce on the top, over the top. Delicious. We are making a creamy Parmesan pesto skillet. All of these flavors, I mean, I have had this recipe saved and been so excited about it because everything about this screams things that my family are gonna love. All right, we're gonna make up the rub for this chicken. We've got some basil pesto right here. You can obviously make your own pesto if you want, but I went the convenient route and just bought it. So we need about 3 tablespoons here in this bowl. Okay, we need a little bit of oil, although this pesto has a lot of oil in it. So it calls for about a tablespoon, but I went a little less because there was already a lot in there. All right, we've got some Parmesan cheese. We need about 2 tablespoons. This is freshly shredded. I'm gonna start combining this. Let's add in some Dijon mustard. And for this, we're gonna do about a tablespoon. This is a new one, so open that up. We need about a teaspoon of honey. And when it comes to a marinade like this or a rub, I typically don't measure. It's one of those things where if you want it to be exact, that's totally fine. But it's just gonna help to bring out the flavors of that chicken. It's just going to flavor it up. So once you throw it in the pan, it's gonna have all of this really good stuff on it. Add a pinch of salt. Now you could marinate your chicken in a little bag or something. I actually don't have one right now. We're out of bags. So we're gonna use this baking dish, which is the perfect size for this chicken. All right, we have these boneless, skinless chicken breasts that we've been using from Good Chop. They're perfect because they're not those huge chicken breasts that you feel like you have to cut in half. I love the size of these. All right, so I'm gonna take 2 of them. Actually, before I do that, let's just take a little bit of our pesto mixture. I mean, a little bit, really not much at all. I'm gonna spread it along the bottom here, just to make sure we get a little bit of this rub on each piece. I'm gonna lay that down. Again, take a little bit of that rub and just spread that around on this chicken breasts. And then we're just gonna keep layering. And obviously, like I said, you can do this in a baggie if you want to. Like I said, I'm out of the size baggies that would fit these chicken breasts. So that is why I am just choosing to marinate them this way. Now you can marinate them for 30 minutes while you're getting everything else prepped and ready for this recipe. You can marinate them overnight in the refrigerator for up to 8 hours if you'd like to do that. So it really just depends on the amount of time that you have for this recipe. All right, now while that marinates, I can get everything else ready for this recipe. There's not a whole lot of chopping to do, which is fantastic. The only thing that I need to do is prep some asparagus. If you're gonna use mushrooms and peas, then you can get those out and ready as well. All right, now for my asparagus, what I have found is if you just snap them where they naturally snap, so for instance, bend, wherever it naturally snaps, that's gonna be the best asparagus. So I just bend them, and wherever it naturally snaps, you're good to go. Obviously, you can eat the entire thing. It's just that the closer you get to the end, the more tough it's gonna be. Now for these pieces, we're going to cut them into 1-inch pieces. They don't have to be perfect, but just around that, kind of like bite-size-ish. These are good to go. They will go in there as we're cooking. All right, we have 1 tablespoon of avocado oil. You can use olive oil if that's what you want. Let's turn our burner on and get this nice and heated so that we can saute up that chicken. We want our pan to be nice and hot so that when that chicken hits that oil, it starts to saute right away, and it's just gonna add such good flavor. So we do have it on a medium high. Take the chicken that we had in the, that we were marinating, and it's gonna go into the pan. Ooh, this is gonna crowd it a bit. Nice. All right, pour all that over the top. That is the good stuff right there. So we're just gonna cook it on 1 to 2 minutes on each side just to get that nice sear on it. I'm gonna be honest, because of the oil that you had in the mixture, you may not need to add any more oil to your pan, but after this step, there's another tablespoon of oil, so I think I'm gonna omit that one so that way we don't have a lot of oil left. All right, this is really the color that you want. These didn't get quite as much color, but we'll make sure they get a good color on that other side. Now, normally when we do this, you guys know we don't really cook it all the way through. We're just searing it. But in this case, we actually are gonna cook the chicken all the way through. So we're gonna let this go for about 6 to 7 minutes. If I do feel like it's getting too much color on one side, I'll flip it again. Let's reduce our heat to a medium. To make sure we don't burn these, we just want them to cook all the way through. Okay, the chicken is fully cooked, so we're taking it out and just setting it on a plate. Let's add in 1 tablespoon of butter. And don't worry about any of the stuff at the bottom of your pan, that's all good. If it's really burnt, like there's a little bit over here that I would consider to be too burnt, you can pull that off, but honestly, anything that's at the bottom of your pan is really just gonna add good flavor. Now I'm gonna add in the asparagus and saute it. Just for about a minute. It's not gonna take very long. In this little bowl here, I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano, a 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, a little bit of salt, and some crushed red pepper flakes. We're gonna mix all of that in. Mix it all together. If you want to avoid the heat altogether, then you can just leave out the crushed red pepper flakes. That's completely fine. Oh, I lost a few there. Now I've got a tablespoon of flour. We're going to coat these. Just mix it all together. We have 2 cups of broth, but I separated them into 2 separate bowls. So we're gonna do one at a time and just scrape the bottom of the pan as we are cooking. Still on a medium heat. Now, like I said, I have another cup of broth. I have 1 tablespoon of tapioca flour, which is the same thing as cornstarch basically. So we're gonna mix that together. And we're gonna add this in as well. And then our heat, like I said, it's on a medium low. We're gonna crank it up just a bit. We wanna get, oh, it's already starting to simmer. So I probably won't even have to turn up the heat. Just pour that in. Now, bringing this to a simmer is gonna thicken up this sauce, which is what you want. Now, depending on the amount of brown bits that you had at the bottom of your skillet, yours might be a little lighter in color than mine, and that's totally fine. Either one is fine. You can see it's starting to take a little bit longer to come back together when you run your spoon or your spatula through, and that's letting you know it's starting to thicken up, which is really nice. This is gonna be a really good sauce. I have 1/4 cup of heavy cream. We're gonna add that in. We'll lighten it up a little bit. Stir all of that together. At this point, we're working with a really beautiful sauce. I do want it to thicken just ever so slightly more, so I'm gonna let it go about 1 more minute, maybe 2, and then it should be good for us to finish this up. All right, so I did just taste the sauce. I do feel like it needs a little bit of salt, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a pinch, maybe a 1/2 teaspoon or so. Okay, I have a 1/4 cup of pesto. Let's add this in and stir that around. At this point, my heat is pretty much on low. It's like right in between low and medium low. Got about a 1/3 cup of shredded Parmesan, and this is freshly shredded. We're gonna add this in, stir it all together. This is gonna be so good. All right, now we can take the chicken and just nestle that back in here until we're ready to eat so it stays nice and warm. We are gonna serve ours over rice. It's in the rice maker right now. I believe it is just finished. So we'll be ready to eat in just a minute here. You have to make this one. We all sat down at the dinner table and said, this might be one of the best flavored meals we've ever had. Fabulous, so incredibly delicious. I'm talking like bursting, every single bite, just bursting with flavor. So, so, so good. I cannot wait to make this one again. This is absolutely a best of for sure. Love this one. You have to try it. Our verse today comes from Hebrews 5:7. During the last days of Jesus' life on earth, he had offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverent submission. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you need more inspiration, I suggest that you check out the video that I have linked above. That's going to give you even more encouragement and inspiration in the kitchen. Have a great week.